Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live. Talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynn@pghcitypaper.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Hey there, I'm here. Oh, dang it. It's May 17th. I don't mean to sound so surly, but I'm feeling surly. And surely I have a right to feel surly. Last time I was talking to you, I believe it was last Thursday, man, I was going gangbusters. Sometimes I start a show and I think in the back of my head, you don't have it today. You can barely put 3 words together without umming, erring, and generally just sort of desperately searching around for another word. But I find out nobody could hear a word I say. Not only you guys, but even the producer back at City Paper. Nothing. So took a while, but that got resolved. The show never made it, but that was resolved. So we start up again today, and guess what? So I just want to say, you can see the kind of pull and power I have down there at City Paper. I've been there for some time now, and I have tolerated a myriad of technical difficulties of various sorts. But I have to tell you, I am nearing the end of my proverbial rope. I was commiserating with Zach, my producer, last Thursday, saying every schmo in the universe is now doing a podcast, right? Everybody is. And I see pictures. There was a picture in the local paper of 2 women. I forget where they're, somewhere here in Pittsburgh and environs, who have a podcast. And it showed their studio. They had like a setup. They had like actual equipment. They weren't sitting on a telephone like I am. Anyway, I'm not annoyed. No, not a bit. God damn it. Okay, stop. This is not the kind of thing you're supposed to do. This is not professional of me at all. My concern is that a lot of you tune in at a certain hour expecting to hear. Okay, stop, Cullen. Stop it! Okay, I stopped. I think. Oh, now. Man, I had such a good hour for you Thursday. See, I haven't stopped. Okay, stop. Oh, God. And my email is so late in arriving that I'm just now getting emails of, are you having technical problems? Miss your show. Are you there? I can't find you. Now, do you think I've stopped now? Okay. I'll try. Sorry. Big day tomorrow. There's an election on the horrors of the day. I have. Those of you who have listened to me for decades know that when there is a war in the Middle East involving Israel, I tend to go into a crouch. And that is part of the reason. It rips my guts out. I can't bear it. I can't watch it. I can barely read of it. It's hard to explain the emotional connection I have and I'm not going to attempt to. And it's hard to explain the fear I have that there is no way to resolve this issue. So it doesn't look good any way you look at it. There's no way to resolve it because at base there are two separate peoples, Jews, Israelis, and Palestinians who both have legitimate claims to the land. And they have proven they are incapable of sharing it. So, very well. I mean, there's an attempt obviously been made by Israel. They have, a lot of Arab Palestinian citizens. And never before have we seen those Israeli Palestinians torching Israeli synagogues as they have and fighting fellow Israelis in the streets. That I've never seen before. So this is, to me, so unsettling. I just can't, and you'll have to forgive me. I'm willing to talk about anything, although I do dodge others' issues. I dodge all the issues that are like so incendiary, or so difficult to. I dodge climate change a lot because that's another one that just scares the holy hell out of me. And there are so many things that we should be paying attention to. It's, little Tony, thank you. He says, glad to hear you. I was late to the show today, so the timing was perfect. Well, oh, yeah. Roger writes, didn't Hitler originally have support of only about 30% of the people, but then teamed up with the Conservative Party to gain control? He told lots of lies and then made them bigger and bigger and kept repeating them until all the gullible people and the hateful people believe. Yeah, you got that sort of right. Yeah, that's sort of right. I saw that Liz Cheney said that she had been told by fellow Republican congresspeople that they had only voted with Trump on impeachment and on other issues and against her because they were literally afraid of being killed. That is, I think, a truth that we need to take in and believe. Trump has enabled so many people willing to kill for him. Thugs and bullies, and they're all armed to the teeth. And I can see where a congressperson in a congressional district that is full of those people who has maybe gotten emails or texts or threats on Facebook that he better toe the line or else. I mean, remember, these are the people that had a plan to actually kidnap the governor of Michigan. It's unclear whether they intended to kill her. So the reality is that the Republican Party has created this monster with their support of no gun control measures at all. So the proliferation of heavily armed people, openly carrying, able to intimidate. And then events of people being attacked, people being killed, in fact, killed inside the U.S. Capitol building by these same people. One can see where those of faint heart would just go along to get along because they literally were afraid of being hurt or killed. There's a reason Profiles in Courage was not a big, heavy tome. It was a pretty thin book. And say what you want about Liz Cheney, but she is now living with that threat big time and only is standing taller. That is a brave human being. She's a lot of other things I don't like, but that is a brave human being. Cheney said this, if you look at the vote to impeach, there were members who told me that they were afraid in some instances for their lives. And that tells you something about where we are as a country, that members of Congress are not able to cast votes or feel they can't because of their own security. So, dangerous, frightening times, indeed. What else I got here? I got lots of stuff. Oh, the election's tomorrow, and I had noted that, and I hope everybody votes, and I hope you know who you're voting for with good reason, or you've actually spent time thinking about it. You're not engaging in knee-jerk voting. The big race, of course, is mayor of Pittsburgh. Bill Peduto has enjoyed that position for 2 terms and 8 years. He's running for a 3rd term. My understanding is that no incumbent mayor has ever been defeated, and that's amazing. That is an indictment of the voters. It is. Were they all so wonderful? Every mayor we've had has been so wonderful? Or have there been like a dearth of really good challengers? But incumbency in this city is huge. I have to tell you, in my back of my head, I think Peduto will, keep that streak going. What? No, you're not. Roger says, I just realized the show I'm listening to is from last Thursday. Is there no show today? There wasn't a show last Thursday, Roger. There's no way you could be listening to a show from last Thursday because we couldn't get up and running. We managed today. So technically, I guess you could say this is Thursday's show, but it ain't. I don't know what's posted on Thursday. I don't know why it says Thursday. This is Monday, May 17th, the day before the election. I assure you. God. Okay. I have this sense that Peduto is going to see a lesser vote of support than he has seen in past elections, and he's had great support. I mean, he's won overwhelmingly both times he's stood for mayor. But, you know, I live in his neighborhood. I live literally about a block and a half away from him. And I don't see a ton of Peduto signs even in his own neighborhood. There is, I sense, a disappointment in him, and it comes from the minority community. It comes from young people. And it comes from me. I mean, Peduto will openly say that while we're called the most livable city, we're not. We are for some. We are for me. I got the means. I live in a nice neighborhood. Yeah. But not for an awful lot of Pittsburghers. And they tend to be people of color and poor white people too, yes. And Peduto has talked a good game about that. But I not only don't see positive change in that regard, I see things having worsened during his tenure. I watched during Bill Peduto's mayoralty, the last 8 years, as the East Liberty area, where I pretty much live, has been transformed. I mean, transformed. It's still being transformed. There are more big friggin' buildings going up all over the place. You can't see the sky anymore. It's like a little downtown is what it's going to look like. But to do that, housing for black people, mostly, was destroyed, leveled. Seems to me I recall something like that happening in the Hill District in another generation or two ago, right? And all those black people who live there, that's their neighborhood, East Liberty. Well, the black population of East Liberty has declined by almost 25%. Where did they go, those black people who called that home, who could walk to all the places they needed to walk? Where did they go? Who had access to pretty good public transportation to get to jobs? Where did they go? They left. They picked up and they left the city. The black population of Pittsburgh during Bill Peduto's 8 years has dropped by nearly 7,000 people. That's amazing. That's amazing. And he talks a great game. I know I hear it. Affordable housing, this and that, blah, blah, blah. And yes, it's not a great city for some people, and we're going to change that, and blah, 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 blah. And remember, he was going to take on UPMC and shake them down. That didn't happen. There was a big high-rise called Penn Plaza Apartments. It was big. It was home to so many people, right there in between Garfield and the East Liberty Business District. Home to a lot of people with not a lot of money. It doesn't exist anymore. But you know what's happening? This other big high-rise building, it's huge, is going up where that stood. So all the progressives, the liberals, the people with money can shop at the bigger, better Whole Foods that will be on the first floor. Never mind that there's a Whole Foods like 2 blocks away now. I was forced into Whole Foods for want of an item in a recipe last week. I had not been in there for, God, years. When Amazon bought it, that was it for me. And anyway, I just sort of don't like the whole thing. So, we're going to get a bigger and better one. And all those black people who lived on that property, who knows where they are? Last time we pushed a bunch of them out, they ended up pretty much in Penn Hills and eastern suburbs. This time, they've just packed up and left. A lot of them. I'm being told that City Paper's website does not have a link to today's show, that if you push today's show, you don't get today's show. Just saying that for my producer's benefit. Anyway, I don't think Ed Gainey is like he's not who I wanted to vote for, but I voted for him. I'm afraid because he came up in the Pittsburgh political establishment, so, maybe he'll just be another one. Every Pittsburgh pal, practically, just rolls over for the corporations and the developers and the so-called non-profits like the gazillion-dollar UPMCs and CMUs and PITs who own this town, who run this town, who've owned it always. And I'm just sick of it. Bloomfield, the black population has dropped 16% in the last 5 years. The cost of housing there has increased 183%. Those are developers and house flippers, and they don't give a damn about what their lust for more money does to the people who don't have the kind of money they have. I'm sick of it, and it should be called out. And I called it out by voting for Ed Gainey. I got a caller, I believe. Hello?
Hello, Lynn. This is Beth.
Hi.
Hi. I was calling to say I agree. When Peduto, I was never a fan of Peduto's when he was still working with Dan Cullen. But I have to say, his handling of Tree of Life and some of the other issues in the city, and again, as someone who's not living in that area, I thought he handled them incredibly well.
Yeah,
I think his biggest weakness is that he didn't stick with his chief of police, and he let the FOP in town pretty much do what they do with every Pittsburgh mayor, is run
I didn't
roughshod
get to that
over them.
reason for why I can't. His total rolling over, again, for the cops,
Yes.
especially during the Black Lives Matter protests here,
Yes.
that did it for me. That finished it off.
And the other thing is also the same thing. It's the planning. Allegheny Conference, which, was a powerhouse of pretty much a lobbying group of all the corporations in town, which now includes all your universities, your Pitt, your CMU, UPMC, AGH, are also now involved with that conference. And that conference kind of weakened a bit, but it's definitely a lot stronger now than it was, 10, 15 years ago. And their control over just what you said, the land development issues in the area. And, one thing I wish that would happen in some city where you have this gentrification going on is the fact that, if you own that home or apartment or condo or whatever it is, that whatever your property tax is, it's frozen at that moment. That when that area, if you stayed in that area when that area wasn't productive, it was violent, whatever the issues were, you stuck it out. You should now have those rewards.
Yes.
And what happens is if the developers don't push these people out, the property taxes now become so high, these people can't afford it. So now the government's doing the job of these developers by pushing these folks out.
Yeah. No, the poor get screwed no matter what, and I don't know. I'm how do we define progress? It comes down to that. What is progress? An awful lot of people will look at what's happening in East Liberty and just burst their buttons because of the progress, because of all these big buildings going up. And to me, it's not progress.
No, you're ruining a community, and what's happening is you're making it into every other vanilla suburb throughout the country. That's all you're doing.
You're doing it for the people who have money.
Exactly.
And
so again,
all this money, and Beth, when these developers come in and build these goddamn things, they're given tips, right? Tax incremental fine. They don't pay taxes.
No. And see, that's the thing what you said about Whole Foods. See, the interesting thing with Whole Foods before Bezos bought them was they did go into areas that were economically distressed. And the thing is, they bought the land as a kind of, we're going to set up here. The whole reason I think why Bezos and Amazon bought Whole Foods was the areas where they bought, of course, they gentrified. So now this real estate has become really choice. So here they already own land in all these areas throughout the country.
Yeah.
They've sold them, and now what they're doing, so what they'll do is they'll just lease that space now. They're not going to own it. And they're probably going to put up some sort of monstrosity apartment building or whatever where the current one sits.
Why not? That whole street. I'm telling you, you cannot see the sky anymore.
No, and again, that's the problem. It kind of goes in that whole thing, circling back again. It's that political machine that does not die in Allegheny County. They do not let anyone new in there. If anybody challenges it, forget it. They're written off. And it was kind of funny. There was a thing on NPR, and they had an economist, and they talked about Pittsburgh for the longest time. And they actually did have someone on from the Allegheny Conference about that. They brought up the question: look, you have people who've lived there for generations. Where do they go? What do you do as far as keeping housing affordable? And they said, well, right now they're studying doing a rent, kind of a rent control program. Those do not work. Because what happens is it comes to a point, and if they grandfather it out, those leaseholders or companies come in and say, look, we know you're capped at this. We'll give you $50,000. Just get out.
Yeah.
So that's the only idea I could come up with. But yeah, it's tragic what's happening to these areas, and especially the people who can't afford it. Where do they go?
I just can't bear it.
So
I can't bear it.
I understand your vote.
Okay, but you wouldn't vote that way.
No, you know what? I have to say I'm kind of
a protest vote.
Yeah, I kind of get that. I do. But I don't know what's going to change until you get people like Fitzgerald out of office, in all honesty, and you get a change within the Democratic Party, within the county, where it's just this old boy Yinzers club. You're not going to have real change. And especially a strong minority presence, which you don't have.
No, and I mean, the population, the black population exodus out of Pittsburgh speaks volumes about what life is like here for black people.
Yeah, it's always been that way, Lynn.
But they've not been leaving like this. 7,000 in 5 years.
Well,
the population of Pittsburgh has decreased. It's going down. It ain't going up. It's going down.
No, but you know what? You have enough trends now that are showing that coastal areas especially, you have millennials and stuff that are like, look, I can't afford a place on the water in Boston, but you know what? I can afford a place now on the water in Pittsburgh, so maybe I will take that job. There is a shift. There is kind of a shift that is happening, I think, looking into the region, but you're right. As far as the minority plight, it's not good, and it never has been. And I always thought Pittsburgh was one of the most racist areas I've ever been in.
Me too.
Yeah.
It stunned me when I first moved here. I was stunned by it.
Yeah.
And people who live here forever don't even know it, see it. But when you came from someplace else, you sure did.
Mm-hmm. It's very evident.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing a lot of the transplants see first. They don't, what is this? I don't get this.
Right. And if you think we're attracting, highly educated black people, you got to be nuts. Why would they come to a city like this?
Exactly. There's nothing being offered culturally as far as neighborhoods, and it's still very closed. So,
I hear you.
Thank you for this conversation today. Have a good one.
You too. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. I think we have another caller. Go ahead, please.
Howdy, Lynn.
Hey.
I just got 3 quick things. One, as far as your city paper, whenever your show ends, the guy comes on and says, you want to listen to Monday through Friday?
I know.
Now, how long have you not been on Fridays? 2 years?
I brought that to their attention, but again, I have such pull, and I am so uppermost in the pecking order there that no, they've never re-recorded it.
Okay, now the other thing, the second thing, you're talking about East Liberty. Were you here when they put that beltway around East Liberty?
I think that happened before me. I came in January of '81, and I think that was a brilliant idea. In that, wasn't it in the '70s or '60s? That idea of, hey, let's take this thriving district and choke it. I don't know. It destroyed it.
Yeah, you couldn't go in to East Liberty.
Right.
Yeah, you couldn't drive straight through. You had to drive around it, and then find a parking place, walk into East Liberty. East Liberty used to have 3 movie theaters.
I know.
Shoe stores, clothing stores.
It was the largest. You know what? It was the largest downtownish area or shopping area. I think the 3rd largest in the State after downtown Philly and downtown Pittsburgh, I believe. East Liberty was that big in the 50s, 40s, 50s, 30s, 40s.
Yeah, they were making money in there.
Yeah.
And then they just said, let's just make a road that you can't get in there.
That was those brilliant urban planners. You know, those were the smart people and the smart developers and the urban planners, and they were intent on making things better. Incredible. Destroyed it. Look what they did to the hill, and then totally sealed it off from the downtown. It's mind-blowing. Mind-blowing.
Yeah, it is.
But so crazy. Politicians forever buy into this crap and cave to the moneyed interests that then, of course, support them. You know, I saw that this Peduto's got almost $1 million in his war chest for this campaign, and I got a text message last night saying, we're only $2,000 away from this, that. I'm thinking, why? It's a day before the election. You need more money? You actually have a whole hunk of it. I'm so sick of all of it. We are the most corrupted nation. The whole thing is corrupted.
Well, I just want to leave you with one last thing.
I hope it's good.
You're thinking about getting another job. You can open up a saloon in Squirrel Hill, and you can call it Brews for Jews.
All right, you're out.
Come on, Albert. Huh?
You're out of here.
Don't you love that?
It's great. Wonderful idea. Brews for Jews. It's got a goodbye, you. Jesus. Okay, speaking about Jews and libation, I got this. This is cute. It's in that part of the New York Times on Sunday called Metropolitan Diary, where people write in little memories they have of the city. And I so love this one, so I'm going to share it with you. It's such a slice of life. Such a slice of New York life. This is written by a woman named Sherry Friedman. I was 23 and hungry and tired after a day of shopping on the Lower East Side when I discovered Ratner's on Delancey Street. Now, Ratner's was a wonderful deli restaurant. I was shown to a booth, and a bowl of onion rolls and a menu were slapped down on the table. What do you have? The waiter demanded without looking up from his order pad. Well, I stammered, looking at the unfamiliar menu. You'll have the stuffed cabbage, he said. And on the side, he still was not looking at me. Mashed potatoes? You'll have the kasha varnishkis, he said, scribbling on his pad and then hurrying off. A generous portion of food soon appeared, and I ate it quickly. The waiter returned. So I guess everything was okay, he concluded as he watched me mop up a last bit of gravy with a piece of roll. Absolutely delicious, I replied. Of course, he said. And for dessert? Nothing, thanks, I'm so full. You'll have the Nesselrug pie, he said, and then disappeared back up the aisle. I don't know if I pronounced two of those things. You'll have the kasha varnishkis. I never heard of that. I've heard of kishkis and kasha, but kasha varnishkis, I don't know, and I don't know what a Nesselrode pie is. Whatever. That is such a cute story, and you can absolutely believe it. Little Tony writes, I filled in my ballot a while back. I put it in the envelope and realized I forgot to put it in the official ballot envelope. Uh-oh. While it was still wet, I tried to slowly open it. Well, it was kind of a mess. I used Elmer's glue and just imagine the anxiety that accompanies this little story you're telling us. So I guess I'll be rejected. Also, it'll be rejected. Also, the fact my signature has changed since I was in the 20s, and since it was in my 20s, now in my 60s. It all sucks. Well, you could also take it. Did you send it in? I guess send it in. I mean, you could also have kept it and then taken it into your polling place, showed it to them. They could have destroyed it there, and then you could have just voted in person. I don't think your signature is going to be a problem. As we age, all our signatures change, generally becoming more and more illegible, right? I believe, I heard that right, by the way. I believe we have another caller. Hello?
Hey, Lynn, it's Dave from Washington.
Hey, Dave, how you doing?
I'm doing fine, thanks. Talk about another 50s, 60s, 70s urban planning thing that went horribly wrong.
Yeah.
Allegheny Center Mall.
There you go.
Just blow that son of a bitch up.
Isn't that something?
Yeah, first off, no mall exists anymore. I'm down here in Washington. We have two malls. One of them has a Staples and a Chinese restaurant in it, and the other one has a Spencer's Gifts and a computer game store. And that's it. Nobody goes to the mall anymore. So get rid of all of these malls. Allegheny Center Mall just cut off access from the North Shore up into the North Hills. You got to go all the way around it, that stupid building, big, huge, hulking building with nothing in it.
I agree.
Then just blow the damn thing up.
Imploded,
always hated that building.
I know, it is ugly as hell, too.
Yep, and then one of these days I'm going to hit the $500 million lotto. And what I'm going to do, there's that big building on West Carson between Fort Pitt Tunnel, the Fort Pitt Bridge, and the West End Bridge. That great big, huge, long, low one that's right there on West Carson on the South Shore.
Yeah.
I'm going to buy that thing. I'm going to tear that son of a bitch down, too. And I'm going to make that a park. Once you get...
Are those the terminal buildings? Is that what they're called?
I don't know what the hell it's called, but I fucking hate those buildings. You come around 51, West End Circle, and you head towards the South Hills. Towards the south side. West Carson. You can't see anything. That damn building's in the way. But then once you get around it, between the end of that building and the Fort Pitt Bridge, what a beautiful view of the point right there. That whole basin, that whole area you can look to the west, from Neville Island all the way up to both rivers, or all three rivers. It's beautiful. Or if you go around that ugly building to the parking lot around back, right next to the river, it's beautiful. That fucking building has to go. And I think the only way it's going to happen, because it's a rather profitable building, is somebody with $500 million, like I'm going to win someday on the Powerball or something. I'm going to buy that damn thing, tear it down, and I'm going to hand it over to the city and tell them to make a park out of it. What a beautiful park.
Well, the park will have to be named after you, though.
Of course.
Of course.
Dave.
Yeah.
Sure, why not? Anyway, that's my two big beasts in town is that damn building and Allegheny Center Mall. And yes, East Liberty, that whole thing, I haven't been out there in decades. What's it called? Penn Circle?
Yeah.
Is that what they called it? Yeah. I haven't been out there, that
Penn Circle, right. Well, it's my neighborhood, and I can't stand it.
I think what they thought was, back in the 50s, 60s, people are in their cars, they're just going to drive around in circles out there, and it's going to be great. Well, you don't know these things until you try them. They look good on paper.
Right.
Problem is they built.
And you know what? There's one giant eagle still hanging on in that area, and it's smaller than a lot of other giant eagles, and it's not as nicely kept up. And it has already it's in a little teeny mall right near where Target is and all this new development, and it already has been sentenced to death. It is going down. That is the grocery store where all the poor, beleaguered people in the community shop, including me.
Yeah, no,
and now I'm going to have to go to that monstrosity from much further away, like the Market District thing,
yeah.
or I just and you know what they're going to put there? They're going to put another big, huge friggin' building.
I don't need. I have a giant eagle down here, and I have my little shop and save. I like my little shop and save. It's small. It's unpretentious. I don't need 50 different fucking kinds of macaroni. Okay, just give me like 2 or 3 different kinds of macaroni. That's good enough for me. And you see these people on the phone. Oh, honey, what type of lettuce should I buy? We got lettuce here from Bolivia, and we have lettuce here from. It's like, oh, for God's sakes, it's fucking lettuce. Just pick up some lettuce and go home and eat it. I don't need. I'm getting all fired up just thinking about it.
Especially lettuce. It doesn't look like something I pulled out of, when I pull weeds out of my yard. I know that's the lettuce you're supposed to like now, but yuck. Give me. Okay, so we'll stop. We sound like 2 old farts now.
That's amazing how worked up I get over stupid little shit like that. Huh?
Okay, you.
I guess it just means life is otherwise pretty good. So, all right. Well, thank you very much. And,
bye.
Enjoy listening to you.
Bye. Thank you. Another thing they're screwing up, it appears, is down in the Strip District, which is, the Strip is unique. They're going to destroy it. They've been working at it. All of the, repurposed factories bringing in the, there's housing that sells for, $1 million in there. And then the produce terminal, that incredible long, speak of a long building, on the river, pretty much, on Smallman Street. And that is now being redeveloped into the terminal something. It's going to be a big fucking strip mall. Instead, it should be all Pittsburgh stuff. It shouldn't be something you can go, to get in the suburbs somewhere, where it should be as unique as the Strip is. But the developers, who are not Pittsburghers, the developers who were chosen by the pals here, the developers are bringing in this bookstore, I think out of New York, when they'd already talked to a bookstore in Bloomfield, wonderful little independent bookstore, that had said they were very interested in relocating there. So instead of allowing this to be a Pittsburgh, it's going to turn into just another place like every other place. It was supposed to stay open so that you could see through it like you used to be able to. They've enclosed it. Every time I read more about it, my blood starts boiling. And all of this development means that all the folks that have their places down there, their little produce stands and their little bakeries and little groceries, their rents are going to go sky high. They might not be able to stay. It is going to destroy this marvelous, unique. How often in this country do you see unique anymore? It's a homogenized, developed monstrosity. And all because of money. And because our politics and our politicians are bedazzled and corrupted by money. I think I got another caller. Hello?
Hey, Lynn, it's Jonathan.
Hi, Jonathan.
Hey, Kasha Varnishkas is Kasha and Bo's. The bow tie pasta. Bow tie noodles. You've seen that. And they sell it at Murray Avenue Kosher and has grilled onions and delicious. And that pie the Nestle or Nessa Road pie. I think that's a real New York thing too. It's a custard, kind of a custard pie, a thick, very rich kind of pie. But I love that story. That is such a
Isn't it right on the money? So cute you could die.
It's perfect. And you know what? If these certain ethnicities besides us, the Jews, she could have walked into an Italian restaurant and, a real home style one, and the same thing would have happened, but with, with Italian food instead, because eat, gotta eat.
my brother always says, Italians, Jews, what's the difference? Right.
Yeah, exactly. My best friend is Italian. We always say it's the 3 F's. It's food, family, and fun. And otherwise we're exactly the same. But you were talking about East Liberty. I grew up on the corner of Walnut and Highland, so right on the East Liberty border. And in the 60s and 70s, just as it was kind of changing. And we used to walk to East Liberty all the time for our shopping and to eat. And in fact, the last movie I saw with my mom was we walked to the Sheridan Square Theater in East Liberty to see Lady Sings the Blues because she was a big Billie Holiday fan. And my friends and I would walk to the Regent Square Theater, which is now the Kelly Strayhorn, to see Godzilla movies on Saturday mornings. So in my day, it was different.
Oh, man. It's so sad. And all of this is called progress, Jonathan. These wonderful, walkable neighborhoods with family-owned businesses, and they're gone.
But you
taken over by
news to me today.
What?
I didn't know that Shakespeare Street Giant Eagle was going.
Yeah. Well, I haven't heard a lot about it for a while because there's, of course, been a lot of pushback by neighbors and residents, but the developer always wins, right?
Sure.
And in fact, some of the other, there's now empty spaces in there's a little State store still there. The bank was there, has left. I think a beauty products place, I think that's closed up. A rental furniture place, I'm not sure that's there anymore. And there's a Family Dollar hanging on. It's all going to go. They got a huge tract of land, and they think we want more unaffordable apartments in a high-rise.
A shame.
It's just,
well.
You know what we've always called that Giant Eagle, by the way, because it had a lot of black customers. That's where black people from East Liberty and actually gypsies would bring them people in. You always see guys standing around there. And it was noticeably not as nice as other Giant Eagles. Didn't quite have the same whatever, and then they sort of tried to make it better about 5, 6, 7 years ago, and I note that. But because it didn't used to be up to what you would think Giant Eagle standards were, we called it the Dirty Bird.
I never heard that. That's hilarious.
No, and any time I tell people, say, well, where do you shop? I always say the Dirty Bird.
That's great. Yeah, but I would always think of it as the Jitney Giant Eagle because that's
yeah.
That was the service. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, to heck with it. They managed to run off. Remember there was a huge building full of black people right there that they blew up maybe about 10 years ago, 15 years ago. Yeah.
Where the Target is now, right?
Where the Target is. And although that's where everybody shopped.
And my parents got married across the street from that Giant Eagle. You probably remember Mini Tello's.
Oh, sure.
Before it was Mini Tello's, it was called the Penn Shady Ballroom. And that's where my parents got married in '58.
For heaven's sakes, that's still a big, old, I think, underused building. Oh, God, don't worry. They'll knock that thing down soon enough. Right?
Right.
Right.
Great talking to you, Lynn.
Good always talking to you. Thank you, John.
All right. Bye.
Bye. Well, guys, I had cheese. I want to tell you, I was walking my dog 2 nights ago, I think, and it was such a nice night. People were out on their front porches and enjoying each other's company and they weren't wearing masks and I have been to dinner at people's homes, and like old times again. Everybody vaccinated. It's been so liberating, so wonderful, and coming as the spring comes as well. I mean, it's hard not to feel better in a lot of ways. But I could, you hear people's conversation, and I heard somebody say, so I understand, like, Walmart and Target and all these places, they're going to say you can come in without masks, but they're just going to say that people who are already vaccinated can come in without masks. And the person, and somebody else started laughing and saying, well, how the hell are they going to know if somebody's been vaccinated? And it turns out, that's a good question. And it turns out that they're going to rely on the honor system. That is the funniest thing. We are a country in which honor has flown the coop. Honor has flown the coop. The honor system. Anyway, the good news is we are, many of us, coming out, eyes blinking in the bright sunlight from this horrific year and a half. Bree is telling me he's getting lots of echo today. Oh, you know what? I told my producer when this show is done, I want him to take all of our equipment and throw it out the window. I'm sorry, guys. I really am. Friggin' embarrassment. Okay, that's it for me, I think. I think we've done pretty much an hour. And thanks for bearing with us. I don't know that I would. Enjoy this beautiful day, and I'll talk at you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.